Welcome to the Grizzled Geologist podcast, coming at you from the Woodlands, Texas. I've brought my friend Milton Smith from ROGII on today. We're going to talk about some technical topics around AI and using ChatGPT in the modern kind of geologic workflow. But hey, welcome back. This is my first actual podcast from my new place here in the Woodlands. I've started my work. Things are going amazingly. And I going to be giving a talk at ROGII Tech next week on the 30th. That's next Thursday. I'll see Milton and a bunch of y'all there. I'm really looking forward to it. In the meantime, the only real update is I'm still looking for people to come on. Make sure you reach out to me on LinkedIn. Hit me on my website, grizzledgeologist.com, and make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel. Hit the notification bell, give me a like, and make sure you follow so you can get the content that keeps coming out. We're going to be back on track, back on schedule. Had a bunch of stuff going on across the board, life stuff, but everything's settled in. I've moved. I've got a few little odds and ends to finish up. Really looking forward to the future. So here we are. Milton, welcome to the new digs.
Nice.
You're my first guest here in the Woodlands. Looks like we had a little hang up there.
Yes, the network technology, first world problems. Yes.
Why don't you take a minute to tell everybody about yourself? You have a very relatable story about how you ended up at ROGII. And hey, why don't you take it from here?
All right. Well, thanks for having me on, sir. Appreciate that. I'm honored to be the first guest in the new studio, which is great.
Thank you.
So how I got to ROGII, well, it's kind of a multi-year story that most of us geos have come into at one point in time in our career. It's never a fun one. I say that because at the end of 2019, I was laid off, and that happens to a lot of us in the oil field. So it was a kick in the gut, but doing what you got to do to get through. Tried my own consulting, exploration deals and stuff like that. But when oil goes to negative 40 a barrel, there's not a whole lot you can do. And Brian was pretty clear at the time that it's time to go make some money, become cash flow positive, cash flow neutral, keep the family going. So when that happened, I started these jobs around town, spinning chickens at Sam's, which is the worst job in the store, but it's honest work. Schlugging tile up and down the ladders for the ladies at Lowe's because the tiles are too heavy for them to go through. Yeah. Worked in a bow shop there for a while too, on part-time, which was fun because I got to shoot my bow and do all the archery stuff. It took me about 4 years to get back, or 3 years to get back in, 3.5 years.
Yeah. I mean, I remember, I remember there was this really good geo out there. Yeah. And we'd even brought you in and, it is a testament to the durability, but also the challenges that a lot of us face. As, a lot of people know here, I was zero income for 1.5 years, basically. Went through a bunch of stuff, and 4 years, 3 years, 1.5, it's all absolutely, it is person forming. It's an important step that a lot of us have to take. And one of the things I was just going to say, I made a note of it, is you went to Lowe's and Home Depot and got jobs there. I don't know a lot of people that actually swallowed their pride and went and did it. And so, I always had a lot of respect for you on that. And yeah, that's something that's really notable, man. It's something to, it's something to be able to talk about and be proud of. So, well, where are we at now?
Well, now I'm at ROGII, been here for 2 years. And thanks to my friend Mike Wood, who I met many, many years ago back at Chesapeake days when he was mud logging sales and coming and trying to get work from us. I just kept in touch, been friends with him. In September of 23, he goes, "Hey, we got a position opening up. You need to put your resume in. I'm going to work with you." Off we went. Yep. We did that. So now at ROGII, been here for 2 years. I am the technical sales analyst in Oklahoma City. We also cover Midland and Tulsa for customers. My job is to work with people like yourself and other operators whenever they're dealing with ROGII products to get them more efficient, more proficient, and show them the powerful tools we have to allow you to show us actually how powerful these tools really are. Yeah. So using things like AI and some well analytics and looking at your data set with our tools in ways we never thought possible is going to pull out a lot of useful information below the subsurface and lead to a lot of key discoveries coming up.
That's a really good point. It's going to segue into what we kind of want to talk about on the technical side, but it really is amazing to see this geosteering software being the one that takes this information that we get from drilling horizontal wells. And it makes a lot of sense because they're already in that niche. So to get the tools and be able to look at these wells in a different way than we really ever have. I mean, I'd say and especially with, again, our topic, AI and ChatGPT, we now are able to really dig into, the ins and outs and the really detailed data that we get when we drill these horizontal wells. So with
Yes.
that,
Mhm.
why don't we delve into what our, kind of our technical topic for the day is going to be, which is, how are we using AI and ChatGPT in the modern workplace as geologists? We've got, and let me just spell out our bullets really quick. We've got Python, we've got petrophysics and well analytics. And so, as someone who actually you teach people about this, you use it in your software. I've seen your tech talks.
Mhm.
Let's go talk about this. This is actually a really important and interesting subject. And I think it kind of crosses into all the realms. So good stuff.
It does. So AI and ChatGPT are helpful because it's allowing us to get up to speed and do a lot of more of these technical, highly technical things faster. But freely admit, I am not a Python scripter. I'm not a Python coder. I
That's
have
the
not
point.
spent the hours necessary to do it.
Same here.
But
Yep.
using our scripter with ChatGPT, I can create a Python script to calculate all my Hallworth and pixel ratios from the gas data and normalize that for parameters such as hole size, ROP, and flow rate coming in to get the correct gas down the lateral. I can also then, within a few hours or less, go and create a script to pull the density porosity information from my type well I've steered against, my pilot well I've steered against, down the lateral to then start performing some well analytics on it. So summing it up, how does that really well to well, offset to offset, looking at it that way. And then do operators, are they targeting the same area? And then is it targeting or is it rock quality? By incorporating those analyses with the type well analyses and pilot well analyses with that. So it's allowing us to do a lot more quickly. So
Yes.
the speed of discovery, I think, is increasing. Now, does that mean the speed of good discovery or the speed of bad discovery? Well, that's different for each situation because sometimes, well, and how many times have we done science projects on a well going, that didn't work? No,
There
wait.
is a lot of learning from mistakes and successes for sure.
Hmm.
But I really do agree with you on this. This is coming from someone who is strong in like computers and technical aspects. My main background wasn't in Python or SQL or any of this stuff, but it's a fundamental part of my day-to-day process. In fact, I'm kind of the IT director of my of the new company that I work for.
Well,
And,
nice.
part of that big task to get this company up and running is being able to connect our main data sources to everybody's software and being
Mm,
able to write these scripts that will connect the different devices to each other. And a guy like me, basically with these tools, can go in and almost do it because we've got this support of AI that knows the language of these things and can take what we say and actually turn it into a code. So, and some of us, like you and I, we get the fundamentals. You're probably pretty close to being able to write your own in a lot of ways just because of the volume and the amount of work you're doing in it. So it's a teacher, it is a useful tool. So what talk to me a little bit about how you started using this and how you've kind of developed through time with this tool set.
with this tool set. Okay. So my background has been primarily technical in nature. So wireline, petrophysics, geophysics for my education, sticking with all this data operational things. So we get all this data downhole, the actual data itself. So how can we apply it and utilize it? So I was focused on that and not so much like you mentioned on the IT side, the
Right.
scripting, the programming, the database and things like that. So I had all these ideas in my head, like, oh, we can do this, we can do that. And I can see it on this roll, but there's a patch up on this one. How do we get it all put together?
Hmm.
And it was just taking forever to get that done. With the advent of ChatGPT and the language models and being able to put in the syntax of software like StarSteer or other programs
Sure.
to train the scripter, utilizing that, it makes me more valuable, more powerful
Yeah.
with my analyses because it's doing that last step. With that being said, seeing ChatGPT or seeing our scripter get into a death spiral and we just start
Sure.
going circles and circles and circles. It's like,
Yeah. Yep.
oh, okay, so we're
Yep.
back in there. So now we got to come back out. Or it'll give you something. And I look at it going, that's not making sense. But that goes
Yeah.
back to my technical background to know that, hey, yes, it did it correct. Yes, it did correctly what it said, but did I tell it to do the
What did
right
we
thing?
miss? Right.
It's one little space.
No,
And
it's an
there's some,
incredible teacher. And, it's one of those things that, again, sometimes it took whole other employees, or you'd have your buddy in IT that would be able to kind of do it. But having this at our fingertips is absolutely amazing. And you guys have kind of integrated it into the software.
Mhm.
And that was kind of the next point I want to segue into. How are you using it personally on the petrophysics end? I mean, are there some I know that there's already some Python basic petrophysics that are out there, but what's kind of the workflow, regardless of software, what's kind of the workflow of doing petrophysics using AI and Python scripting?
yes. Well, it's more going into the models and creating the models and running that. Given the data and you've normalized it and getting all that stuff in there, what is the model saying? Where are we at relative to the model?
Mhm.
How can you tease more out of that? Because there's some subtleties and nuances that we see because we're people. We learn to recognize patterns as geologists,
Yep,
but the computer is looking at 10, 12, 100,000 other different iterations and possible combinations that we just can't see or necessarily put together because we think that's noise or something else when it's
sure,
actual data.
sure.
So it's doing the work of how many of us geos and petros to do that and to get that and tease out those subtleties that we might have missed.
Well, that's cool. So, workflow that I would think is pretty cool using the petrophysics, like you were saying, would be to, right, like look at your offset type well. And when you're drilling through the rock, you're able to kind of tie the different parameters to know where you are in a vertical section of rock.
Yes.
And so, you will be able to go along the lateral, and that is if, say, you were to run porosity logs or anything like that on any of these, but you should be able to tie the gamma ray to a certain spot within the rock that ties to the porosity, and then come back and run analytics through that well to see how, where you were with relative to the porosity. And
Mhm.
then in the future, be able to tie that in with fracks and stages and, any kind of PVT or anything like that. We can now tie these data sets together in really powerful and meaningful ways for sure.
Yes. Yes. I've done a little project with that with public data in Ohio.
Okay.
And
Well, talk to me about that.
I took in Belmont County, some of the public data up there, steered 40 wells and correlated them back to the type wells I had access to. Then I summed up the density porosity down the lateral based upon my interpretation and looked at the first 12 months declining production. And I was stuck with the dry gas area, so I didn't have to worry about
You don't
a
have to
bunch.
worry about phases or anything, huh?
So I was trying to keep it simple because I'm a simple guy. I studied rocks. And so I did that. And based upon my interpretation and where the well bores were at, there was a 70% correlation of the first 12 months declining production to the sum of the density porosity down the lateral, which I know people are going to say, great, you've already figured out the fairway. That's wonderful. And that's true, we have. But as Cardin Oil and Gas, would it be nice to see where somebody might have missed reserves or didn't complete them effectively
Hmm.
or room for improvement, additional drainage? And then if you're going to acquire them, you can look at that and say, oh, they didn't effectively drain this. So I need to go in with this kind of bid and this strategy to acquire that acreage that's beneficial to me.
Amazing. And so, what you just said without saying it directly, though, is that you're able to take this kind of horizontal information and tie it into more regional mapping
Mhm,
also and gridding. So that is kind of what happens. And so, like the general workflow that we would have here is we would drill a horizontal well. We
mhm,
would take that horizontal well and run it through a series of analytics that tells us different things that we're looking for. Which
mhm,
rock is drilling fastest, which rock completes better, where did we lose circulation, a myriad of data that we're going to be able to get. Okay, now what we can do is now take that one well, combine it with all the surrounding wells in the area that were in the same zone, so to speak, look at those analytics, in zone percentage, again tying it back to all these little metrics, and
mhm,
then we can take that and put it into a 2D map with contours. And like you were saying, you're going to start to see bullseyes in different areas where there may be reserves remaining, or maybe they were out of zone. There's still an opportunity there to actually capture the reservoir. That's some kind of stuff. Are a lot of operators kind of using this workflow now? And let me ask you this because it's serious. Is it because a lot of this gets passed off to the engineers, if I'm being honest with you. Or these are reservoir and geology are definitely an interfered, but this is giving us, these tools are kind of giving the geologists a little bit more of a leg up than they have had in the past, because it's adding our traditional workflows and giving us the ability to do some of the math and, some of the other fun stuff that typically we've handed it off to a reservoir engineer. So if we can take a more complete product and hand that off to the next team, I think that that's, helping everybody. And, AI and, tools like ChatGPT are absolutely fundamental in this.
They are. And you mentioned it. It's collaboration. It's the working with the other teams to get the best answer. Much like petrophysics, you're trying to get the most core, the most information, the most volumetrics, the most PBT, the fluid properties and everything else to get the right answer. Because, yeah, you're 90% correct on the volumes, but you can get to 95%.
Yeah.
And when you get 95%, we can send that to the reservoir guys. Ooh, now we can get the dollar amount that we need to get when we sell or buy the neighbor, looking
Yeah.
at that. And therefore, at 95%, well, can we get to 96% and make a little bit better and make a little bit better? We're starting to see that now. Most of our customers, if we can start piecing things together from the little bits they say here and there,
Yeah.
they're getting there.
Yeah.
They're not yet. They're building out their databases and incorporating all of this geology data, this horizontal data, and then they're bringing in their completion data, their production data, their drilling data when they have it. And they're starting to look at it going, I'm starting to start to tease some things out. Why are we seeing, we see a correlation now, this correlation causation, and what can we do with that?
Yep. And fundamentally, the more I think about this, my geosteering chops and my work history and whatever, but it never ceases to amaze me. And I'm going to keep pounding this point. Like, everything starts with where us, the geosteerers, have that bit in the rock. Okay. Like, the fundamentals of this whole thing all boil down to us being in zone, understanding what the zone is, and delivering a well that is understandable and follows and is keeping us in the best possible rock. And we have challenges while we're down there, but this is bringing me, we were just talking about these different disciplines and this kind of thing, and it's going to tie into the reason y'all have me come and talk at your thing, is because I'm one of the people that actually have made a real effort to only use, I'm sick of jumping around and stuff. Okay. And frankly, my bosses, engineers that I work with, we all kind of like to our little silo in some regards, but at the end of the day, these different packages and different needs, are we actually getting to a point where there is this one solution that's going to kind of capture not just the interdisciplinary, but like all of geology and the ability for, here's the deal, but the CEO of my company that I'm working for now asked me, because I told him, I was like, listen, I use this one for like pretty much doing most of my work in this, in the one StarSteer package. I use the block software for, go and like check the scout card or some of this other stuff. But at the end of the day, I was telling him, listen, this is like my main tool. And he was like, well, this is something that I can learn. And I was, that really got to me, because I was like, well, you definitely could, but it doesn't do what you need it to. I've got a license that's going to let you see us updating and doing stuff, but like at the end of the day, it has a lot of the tools that reservoir needs, but if we haven't really kind of crossed that bridge yet. So
not yet.
And again, this is my talk topic. What are your thoughts on this? Like, is there an all-in-one solution that gets us where we need to be without jumping around so much?
Well, if you ask any software company, of course they're going to say, yes, my software will get you exactly where you need to be using everything you
or
need.
We're trying to get there,
Yeah. But I think if I can take off the salesy part and the pro team, go team
and that's what I'm saying. Throw the company out, dude. Like, just honest. I don't care who it is, to be honest with you. Like,
I think we're getting closer. I don't think we're there yet.
No.
And I think if you take parts of Geographics, parts of Kingdom, parts of StarSteer, and if you could get all three of those together, work them together, and then you could get it, because each one has their own pluses and minuses.
Totally.
Because they have their.
And that's going to be, and listen, what I'm all about also is software I'm going to be real, dude. Like, the free market competition is drives better product. So, I want to to keep that in mind. I do see the value in everything, like, as you know, I'm an expert Petra user. I'm an expert geographics user, interchangeable. But there's things that I like about both of them. There's things that one of them does amazingly that the other one is, a little bit more of a pain in the butt. So, that's the kind of world we live in. There's kind of different developers and ideas and ways that, people want to deliver these different products. But I don't
And
know. I would like to see the all-in-one, and
and
the
I do
engineers are in it too.
correct. I do think in the next 5 to 10 years, we're going to be impressed with the amount of integration that we see in terms of the operators being able to use one software instead of reservoirs using
Hundreds of
told you
thousands
these
of
guys, how do we
dollars,
get this
dude.
back and forth and all this other stuff and
I'm dealing
databases
with it
hooked
right
up and
now.
connect up?
Yeah, the date we got to, I mean, let's just go down the list. I've got to get land software. I've got to get
Hmm.
engineering software. I've got to get software that deals with the SCADA data. I've got to get software that takes the shit from land and air and whatever else and plugs that into, like a Excel spreadsheet on crack, basically, right? I've got to
Hmm.
have my box software. I've got to either have a consultant that's got it or my own 3D seismic stuff. I've got to have my geosteering software. Don't forget Illustrator and every other damn thing.
Right, to make
So
your
you add this all up, and that's not to mention other subscriptions. And we're
mhm.
talking, when you really started to. Luckily, I work for 5% companies, but like when you start adding this up, these are millions of dollars. And then
Yes.
still people struggling to communicate. So at the end of the day, that's what I'm going to be pushing. I'm all about it. I'm all about the software competition and the drive for better products. And at the end of the day, it just would be nice where I could not have to make these decisions and have multiple contracts to accomplish one job.
And that day is coming. It's just
I agree.
it's going to take some time. And having started at ROGII, the amount of progress I've seen in 2 years, gosh, it's been impressive.
It really has,
And
dude.
the amount of work they're putting into it to make it better and different and more like what you're wanting, a one-stop shop, it's impressive. And the amount of growth we're going to be doing and going with that, it's going to be nice, but it's going to take time.
Yeah.
Much like the other softwares, Kingdom and Geographic, I'm sure they're paying attention to ROGI and each other going, oh, we need to start growing and pushing and doing this because we need to get integrated. We need to bring in ESRI maps. We need to bring in TGS data quickly because we need to do this fast because he's got a deadline to meet. He's got a
Yep.
well to drill.
Yep.
Manager's looking at this, the timelines, and on and on and on.
And
So
listen,
it's
this software is all of it is starting to replace people too. And it's sad but true. The AI, the software, I can tell you that with these tools, I've eliminated it for a small company like the one that I work for. I've eliminated the need for 3 or 4 people by choosing the right tech IT partner and by using the right software applications to be able to and getting the workflows automated.
mhm.
Like getting certain things automated to where I know my data is up to date and the ease and usability. I was talking about, I'm not going to name names, but we're looking at our data providers and, that's the thing is that, they're going to come with a cost, but how much employees or G&A is that replacing? And so, we can just get into stuff and start looking at like detailed information like spacing, best production, all these kinds of things. We're watching, it's kind of like when we were growing up. Watch where you're picking up the phone off the wall and having to go through people's parents to talk to your friend, to, this full digital age that we live in. And so I think we're watching and we're kind of the frog boiling in the pot right now with a pretty big digital transformation. And there's going to be consequences, positive and negative, to this kind of direction that we're going with automation and being able to integrate technology.
Also optimistic for the people too.
I am too. That's what I'm saying. We all find our path, and you got to have people behind all of this.
Yes.
It's just there might not be as many people say watching wells, but there's going to be people watching the back end of at the back end of the server, making sure that the data is coming across. And you get what I'm saying.
Yep. And as our industry develops more into this development mode or factory mode
It is
with
more
these
factory.
shales,
Yeah.
we're going to go, the sandboxes are pretty much set for the shales. There's some new ones coming here and there that we'll find, of course. But we're going to
I'm
go
bullish
in.
on Oklahoma, by the way. Since the Cherokee Shale, my eyes are open. I think we've got a lot of fun to have left in the Anadarko, in particular, the Western.
Without a doubt. And then because the Cherokee looks the way it does, well, how many other shales are in a
That's my
similar
point.
position?
Like, that thing works. I was like, God, like, there's, I see logs on a regular basis where I'm just,
Mhm.
how am I going to raise $3 million to drill a well and core this damn thing?
Yeah, there's that. And there's only so much of that we can get, but there's how many of these other sandy areas that just didn't work vertically
Low perm,
that
right.
now a geologist like us has to come in and be, okay, this is what it says. But now if we look at it this way,
Completely
or
different story.
this way, or this way, now it possibly works. And I don't think AI can get to that point.
No, it
Yet.
does take the experience. Like, we do have to plant the seeds for AI to be able to go and look at the right thing. And you're exactly right about that. Like, that's a perfect example, like the low perm, high saturation sands that, they're just sitting there, and you pop a good frack on them. You've got access to a lot of reserves. It's really incredible. Well, why don't you take a minute? This has been a great talk. We're coming up on the perfect amount of time. Why don't you just take a minute and give a quick ROGII plug? We've been, just kind of trying to talk technical. Give a quick ROGII plug, and then you're on the hook for words of wisdom, which I know I'm not going to catch you off guard with that one.
No, it's all good. So the ROGII plug, yes, we're continually developing and advancing. We enjoy the feedback. And even though our most recent release has not been our most stellar one, we still appreciate the feedback because we're going to make it better moving forward. Our next release or two, we're going to have some very big advancements coming in to help out with the geology people.
Cool.
So they can do more in there. And it's going to be very nice and impressive. And it's one of those where I've been waiting for some of this stuff to come in. I know the operators here in the Mid-Con have been waiting for some of this stuff to come in, and it's finally showing up after 2 years because it just takes that long to develop some of these things. And
Time
once
and
we
money.
get this, they're like, hey, great, you did this feature request from 2 years ago. Awesome. What about the next one? What about the next one? What about the next one? And we're not going to stop. We're going to keep on going, trying to deliver what our customers want, because if you're more efficient, we're employed, we're all making better wells,
it works
we're
for
all doing
everybody.
better things. So it's a win-win. So we're trying to give you this, or so you can make the best decisions that you can do.
Love it. All right. Well, words of wisdom.
Okay, words of wisdom. All right. Don't forget who got you here, and don't forget honest work, because all that time you do when you are schlubbing tile at Lowe's, you're buying time, you're buying cash flow and patience and peace, so you can get back in when the time is right. Don't forget all the people on the rig, all those mud loggers, all those wireline guys, all those guys on the frac job who are turning wrenches to put the sand down holes. You can learn from them too, because they're going to teach you so much about the data you see on screen. Because as we go more into AI, it's all going to be digital data. And digital data is great for calculating, but there's so much that digital data doesn't tell you. For example, how many times have you seen these SP curves that just spike crazy here and there and yonder?
Nobody uses SP.
But you see it as like, oops, our line engineer error, because he hit the knob a little bit and shot way over and came back.
Yep.
You won't notice that in a digital log, but you'll see it in a raster log. Or have you been on a truck? Oh, now I've got this. I should check this. I should check that. I go one here.
Only the real G's use raster logs still, man, for sure. Like, you're a real G if you like. For sure. I like the quick look with the pretty LAS, but the real homies know what's up with the raster logs, man. You gotta have them.
And then you mentioned scalp tickets earlier. When I was on my own doing some things, I would look at the scalp tickets, and I can't tell you the number of times I pick up a scalp ticket and some old geologist wrote on there, bad drill stem test.
Yeah.
Couldn't get a seal because of pressure.
That's not captured in the box data, buddy.
Exactly.
You get it. You get it. The notes, I've even had like an exclamation point, like that just occurred. So awesome. Milton, thanks so much for coming on. You and I are pretty close. We see each other pretty regularly. It was nice to see you at the last couple conferences. Thank you so much for coming on. Remember, everybody, I'm going to give a little talk at the ROGII Tech next week. I hope to see some of you there. This is the Grizzled Geologist, Keith Carbon. Make sure that you go to my channel, like, subscribe, do all the stuff. And to all you geosteerers out there, where the hell are we? See ya.
See ya.
You have to work for it. Don't be crazy. And work for your money.